suppliers aren't thinking, how much money are they going to make from this first order. They're thinking, how much money will I make from this customer over the next 3, 5, 10 years? So I think a lot of them are excited at the potential of e-commerce.
Does it limit you though, do you think, being an e-commerce business? Like, are there certain suppliers that simply won't touch e-commerce sellers?
Suppliers have become a lot better understanding of branding.
Is that an issue? Do you have to be sort of hitting a certain threshold before they'll do you the really nice packaging or not?
Move more into working like as a partnership. That's when the magic starts to happen.
What's a kind of a good tip or a good starting point for identifying the right suppliers or the right products?
The more information you can get from the supplier, you can get better results.
What are some danger signs that you're being overlooked and then maybe you should be kind of getting out of this?
The supplier's now educating you about the product, so they're like, I can give this person any price that I want because they don't understand. And then you can just sort of take those lessons into the next booth, into the next booth, into the next booth, and then you have their respect, and then they want to work with you.
Oh, I hope no suppliers are watching this.
One of the first questions I ask the factory is,
hello and welcome to Global Sources Live. My name is Tom and I'll be your host today, coming to you from the show floor of the Global Sources exhibitions in Hong Kong. I'm delighted to say hello and welcome to Kian of Sourcing with Kian. How's it going?
Absolutely amazing. I'm so glad to be back here. So excited to be back in Hong Kong and at the exhibition and seeing it in full flow. It's amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh no, well, thank you for joining us because you're a busy guy. Have you been going around the show floor today?
Yeah, I've been around here for the last couple of days and it's been amazing. I think so far you can really feel the energy in the conference that we've all been waiting for, and I think the suppliers are really, really excited to showcase their new products to us, as we're also excited to showcase our new ideas and just sort of have that face-to-face interaction again. I always feel like the best product development is done face-to-face, exchanging ideas, working with prototypes and samples in our hands. And it's really been cool to see what the suppliers have been working on for the last 3.5 years, and then for us to share ideas as well. So it's been great so far.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, to give our viewers a bit of an idea about where you're coming from, can you maybe sum up, or introduce yourself, your background, that kind of thing?
Yeah, sure. So Kian Golzari, I've been living and working in China for the last 12, 13 years. In that time, I've designed, developed, sourced and manufactured over 2,500 products, visited more than 500 factories, and that has allowed me to manufacture for brands, retailers, licenses such as the NBA, the Olympics, United Nations, a lot of Amazon sellers, Shopify sellers, and then within the crowdfunding space as well. And a lot of people say, how are you able to supply so many of these different types of companies? And I always say that if you can source the best product at the best price from the best factory, then you can supply anyone that you want. And really coming to this show is I'm just going to continually improve my knowledge and see what's the latest and talk to these suppliers. And aside from that as well, I've got a YouTube channel as well, Sourcing with Kian, where I just educate a lot of sellers on how to manufacture in the best practices, get the best price, find the best suppliers, all that sort of fun stuff. So I'm here to learn and then here to contribute as well.
That's fantastic. So Sourcing with Kian is the name of the channel, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. I suppose today's the perfect day to ask you about this then. If someone is an e-commerce seller, perhaps a bit of a beginner, or they're operating on a smaller scale, coming to a show like this or even an online event, where you have these showcases, what's a kind of a good tip or a good starting point for identifying the right suppliers or the right products that you could reasonably be selling, in your shop front?
Yeah, I think in terms of the suppliers, I think coming to a show like this will greatly play in your favor because you've proven to the suppliers that you're a serious buyer. Because by coming to this show, you're saying, I'm looking to find and source products, compared to online, whereas people are just like inquiring, but the supplier can't quite figure out, are they a serious buyer or not? So that's the first step, just being here. After that, it's very important for you to state your leverage to the supplier. Even if you're just beginning and you're in this for the first time, you're doing your first product or first year in business, maybe you don't have that longevity or business experience that you can share with the supplier and they're looking for those big orders. But I like to state what I'm good at and what's the advantage that I bring to the table. So for example, if you're doing like a yoga mat, right? You could say that, hey, I've had my own yoga studio for 14 years. I'm an educator, I'm a teacher. I've got all these new ideas for new yoga products. I'm looking for a reliable long-term supplier, because suppliers aren't thinking, how much money are they going to make from this first order. They're thinking, how much money will I make from this customer over the next 3, 5, 10 years? So as long as you state that long-term vision and stating your leverage to the suppliers to make them excited to work with you. So whatever profession or industry that you're in, you can say that, hey, I know the biggest influencers and KOLs in the space, so that when we launch the product, we've got these large influencers that we're going to promote it with, right? So you might not have that like Amazon sales background where you can show that you're a 7-figure seller, but the influencers that you do find and you do work with, you can get them involved at an early stage to say like, hey, I'm bringing out this new electronic product or this new lifestyle product or this new fashion product, and then would you like to be a part of this brand? Would you like to be a part of this process? Would you like to sell on our behalf? And as long as they can get excited about it, you can leverage those influencers to show to the buyers, to the suppliers, to say that this is who we're working with to promote the product. And then as long as you have new ideas for products and they respect you for your like innovations and stuff like that as well, it's a great place to come and sort of share your ideas. And the beauty about this show is that you have so many suppliers under one roof as well. So it's not like you just go to one supplier, it doesn't work out, and then you're done. Like you can walk down the booths and you can chat to 5 or 6 different suppliers. And if you're a beginner, I like to use this show as like practice. Like let's say, for example, I'm going to source a product, but it's my first time coming to this show and I don't know what to say and I don't know what the questions to ask and I might not be confident. I would go to the booths of a completely unrelated product. So if I want to buy like electronics, I'll start with fashion and I'll go in and I'll ask my questions like, hey, how are you finding the show so far? How many years have you been in business? Like which main markets do you supply? What certifications do you have? Just do a bit of back and forth, get a little bit confident. And then once you feel like, right, I'm ready now to talk to the suppliers that I want to work with, then you can go in and talk to them with a little bit more like confidence.
That's an amazing, I'd never thought of that. That's good, because you've got nothing on the line in that conversation, have you? Although I hope no suppliers are watching this. Anyway, but no, that's great. I mean, does it limit you though, do you think, being an e-commerce business? Like, are there certain suppliers that simply won't touch e-commerce sellers?
I actually think a lot of suppliers get excited by e-commerce because e-commerce has been around for like a few years, but traditionally a lot of these suppliers which have been coming to the show for many, many years have been traditionally selling to like retailers and brick and mortar stores, and they've seen those order volumes go down, and then they've seen an online store that they've supplied, whether it be Amazon or Shopify or crowdfunding, and then just get crazy 7-figure orders. So I think a lot of them are excited at the potential of e-commerce, and maybe some of the suppliers have tried it themselves and they failed, they haven't quite cracked the code, they haven't quite figured it out. So if you can show that you're good at e-commerce, I think they'll get very, very excited to work with you.
Oh, that's great, because of course, I mean, the topic that we're supposed to be talking about is this idea of dealing with maybe larger suppliers in particular. And is that like a way in, do you think, this idea that maybe they've been frightened off e-commerce or they don't know it that well, and that's your unique advantage to kind of get attention? Yeah, I mean,
I've had suppliers approach me to say like, hey, would you want to do a joint venture together? Like you run the sales of it online and we'll supply you the stock at credit and we'll utilize your branding. But what I've noticed at this show in particular is that suppliers have become a lot better understanding of branding, right? Whereas before it was just like, put your label on this product. But now it's like they really understand good packaging, they really understand like differentiation, they really understand like good product features which stand out, which can show up well on an image and things like that. So it's really good to see that their level of experience and education has really improved as well, which then helps us as well because they know what we're looking for.
Yeah, and they're more able to, or more willing to customize for smaller orders as well. Is that an issue? Do you have to be sort of hitting a certain threshold before they'll do you the really nice packaging or not?
Yeah, I think it's really important to have the conversations with the suppliers around what is the MOQ for your product. And suppliers will tell you, oh, it's 500 pieces, it's 1,000 pieces, it's 10,000 pieces. And I think us as buyers, we really want to educate ourselves as why is the MOQ, right? So they might say that, yeah, the MOQ is like 2,000 pieces. And if you say why, they'll be like, well, the product we could have done like 500 pieces, but you want this custom packaging, which we have to buy from our packaging supplier, which is 2,000 units. And with that information, we can say, okay, cool, buy the 2,000 pieces of packaging, but just ship me the 500 products and I'll pay for the 1,500 units of packaging that you don't use, and I'll use that on future orders. Right. So once we can get a better understanding and familiarity of why is the MOQ, then we can work with those like bigger suppliers. And the other thing as well is that we want to really understand how many workers they have in their factory. How big are these suppliers, right? Because some suppliers have got 20 workers, some have got 50, some have got 100, some have got 500, some have got 2,000. So one of the first questions you ask the factory is that, hey, how many workers have you got? And if I'm just going to try something for the first time, 300 units, and they tell me they've got 2,000 workers, I know it's probably not going to be a good fit. But if I can find a smaller factory, one who's maybe got like 50 workers or 100 workers or 500 workers, I know they'll be a little bit more like nimble and willing to try and work with me, because they also want to see this new product idea grow and then they'll benefit from the future sales of that product.
So do you think that's more is that a mindset thing more than a practical issue of like in terms of the workforce size?
I think at the end of the day, the suppliers like orders, right? And I think it's about it's like a energy that they feel from you in terms of like, you know, how excited are you about this product, how much do they believe in your vision for this product and what you want to do with it. So I think the more details you can share of what's your plan here, who you're going to work with, how you're going to market this, which sort of countries you're going to sell it in, how you're going to list this, and they're like, oh, I'm really excited about this. Okay, the first order might only be like 350 units, but I see the potential in this. And then you sort of move more into working like as a partnership rather than I'm the buyer, you're the supplier. It's like, no, we're in this together, win-win partnership. If I do well, you do well. And then as soon as they buy into that, then that's when the magic starts to happen.
Nice. All right, so let's flip this and take it negative. So what are some signs that maybe if you are with a supplier that has other bigger clients than you, what are some danger signs that you're being overlooked and then maybe you should be kind of getting out of this? You know?
Well, you know, to flip it again to a positive, you can use that to your advantage if you have a supplier with big customers, right? For example, I've worked with suppliers who manufacture for like Walmart and they're doing like maybe 100,000 units, but I'm only ordering something which is like 2,000 units. And once I know this, because a lot of the suppliers you see at the show, they have like their certifications and they'll say like Disney audit, Walmart audit, SEDEX audit, and I look for that. I'm like, all right, they must have big customers. And once I've built up a bit of a relationship with them, I would ask them, hey, what products are you doing for Walmart? What products are you doing for Target? What products are you doing for Bed Bath & Beyond? And I don't want to do those products as well. I don't want to copy those products, but I want to understand what materials you're using for them, right? So for example, if I'm doing like a backpack, right? And they're also doing 100,000 units for Walmart and I like that material, I would ask them, can I use that material for my order as well? I'm going to order a completely different backpack, but I want to utilize that material, and therefore I'm utilizing their economies of scale. So if they're ordering 100,000 units worth of fabric, they're going to add my 2,000 units of fabric onto the back of that, and then we're going to manufacture it together.
Yeah, even if you don't particularly like that fabric more than another, if everything else is equal, that will be the cheaper option for you, right?
Yeah, and so you're going to benefit from their economies of scale. The other thing as well is that these big suppliers tend to hold like accessories in stock, right? So if I've got a small order, but I've got a big supplier, they might, let's say, have like zips in stock, buckles in stock, different like waterproof rain covers in stock. And then I would say that, I would explain what I want. If they say, no, we can't do that, MOQ's too high, I'd be like, well, what do you have in stock? And then they would show me and I would be like, you know what, that's quite nice actually, I'll use that. Or they might say, if I have like some like navy blue pattern, they're like, you know what, we don't have that navy blue, but we've got this lighter blue in stock. Do you want to use that? And quite often you'll get those at a better price because they've had that in stock, in storage for a while, and they're actually just looking for a home for it. Maybe they had a customer which cancelled an order in the past, maybe they over-ordered. And if you're like, yeah, I'll take that material, they'll give it to you at a discounted price because one, the material cost was cheaper before, and they just want it out of their warehouse as well.
Presumably that's going to kind of improve your relationship a bit as well because you're taking an interest in what's going on at their end, right?
Yeah, exactly. The more information you can get from the supplier, you know, who they supply, what materials they hold in stock, how many number of workers they have, what certifications they have, the more touch points you have in terms of here's different ways I can work with them, and then you can get better results.
All right, fantastic. So I guess, so summing up, we've got like be yourself, like know your advantages, and yeah, well, I mean, it's the thing all of these episodes seem to conclude with, which is just communicate and talk to the suppliers, right?
Yeah. And the good thing is as well, like I think when you come to a show like this, you can take the lessons learned from one booth and apply it to the next one, right?
Oh, that's interesting. Can you give us some examples?
Yeah, sure. So just for example, like if you want some like eco-friendly, sustainable, recyclable material, they might say, yeah, we have this certification, it's the EN 1072, we also have the FSC for recycled paper hang tag, would you like that? I'm like, yeah, great. And then when I go into the next booth, I'm like, hey, I need that EN 1072, I need the FSC. And the supplier's like, oh wow, they really know about this product. And then it's like, you've shown your knowledge, you've shown your authority so that they now are able to like better communicate with you from day one because they're gonna give you like best pricing from the beginning because they know. But if we walked into a booth and we were completely clueless and we were like, hey, what material do you use? Polyester or nylon? Which one do you want? Well, which one's cheaper? Polyester. All right, what's the difference? The supplier's now educating you about the product, so they're like, I can give this person any price that I want because they don't understand. But if you come into a booth and like, hey, I need that 600D polyester, it needs the 2-time PU coating, and it needs to have the infrared reduction on it, they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And also, you're being less of a pain as well. Like they don't have to teach you everything.
Yeah, you know exactly what you want, and then you can just sort of take those lessons into the next booth, into the next booth, into the next booth, and then they just you have their respect, and then they want to work with you.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Now, if people want to see your YouTube channel, that's Sourcing with Kian, right?
Yeah,
Any,
Sourcing with
any
Kian.
other ways to get in touch with you?
Yeah, Instagram, Kian_JG, also LinkedIn, Kian Golzari, and if you just want to drop me a message as well, my email is k@sourcingwithkian.com.
Very memorable and easy to do. Okay, thanks, Kian.
Cool. Thanks so much.